Son of a bitch.
Groovy.
Hey everybody, this is Matt Movies coming at you with my review of the 1997 movie Grosse Pointe Blank, a John Cusack movie that is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the main reasons why I do count myself as a gigantic John Cusack fan, even though it's not so great these days. He's been in a lot of clunkers as of late. But when I look back at the glory days of his, which is 90s to 80s, I absolutely adore many of his films. And this is absolutely one of my favorites, right up there with like High Fidelity or Better Off Dead and a few others. I absolutely think this movie is fantastic. It's funny. It's got a real dark sense of humor to it that works perfectly. I mean, I think he was the perfect actor to play the lead role in this movie, and he just absolutely kills it. And for those of you who don't know what this movie's about, basically he does play a professional killer. He's an assassin who you see early on. He's killing people with just no really big moral qualms. He's a very morally ambiguous guy, but at the same time he is your main character. You come to love him as the film progresses, and you definitely are rooting for him throughout. And basically he ends up getting an invite to a high school reunion, and despite the world that he has moved on to and the grisly things that he does, he gets convinced to go back to his high school reunion and kind of reassess maybe his life to a certain degree, and reconnect with some people that knew him back before he became this dark dude who'd been trained to kill. And he definitely embodies that role to perfection. He very much has this very calm, cool demeanor throughout, but at the same time when he's interacting with some of the people that are from his earlier years, he gets a little bit more manic. I mean, he's definitely not manic per se, but he gets a little bit more excited and a little bit more reactionary. But at the same time, when he's dealing with them, he's very forthright. I mean, he tells people that he's a professional killer, which is astonishing, and tells them to keep it on the down low and all that. It's a very, very fascinating character in the way in which he deals with people, and he has his own set of morals and his own beliefs that allow him to do what he's doing. And it's a very interesting character, especially for being basically the protagonist of the film, even though he does very antagonistic style things. It's very, very interesting, and it plays into the dark comedy edge of this movie. And when he goes back, he meets up with his high school sweetheart, who's played by Minnie Driver, who he does an absolutely great job in this movie. She's as charming as this as she is in anything else. And I gotta say, whenever I see her in something, she's a very relatable person. She's gorgeous, but at the same time, she seems like somebody that you could meet in your everyday life. She doesn't seem like above it all or whatever. She's she carries herself with a real relatability and a real openness, and she's somebody who I feel like whenever I've seen her in a number of projects, you really end up investing into her to a great degree, which actually works because you do have John Cusack, who's kind of a little bit inscrutable in this film. So to see him have this woman who he allows back in his life, and the interactions between the two of them, it allows you to invest in that romantic relationship more, and invest in him more, and in all the other things he's doing. And of course, you're very, very invested in her and in her happiness. And I'd say, by the end of the film, she's the one who you want to see have the happiest ending of everybody involved. And I thought she was absolutely one of the main reasons why this movie works. I think if you'd had a different actor in there who was playing her, I think it would have been a lot less effective film, and I would have cared a lot less about it, even though everything else about her was the same. So I think that speaks to the strength of her performance and the importance of her performance in this film. And you do have another a slew of other supporting actors. John Cusack, who is in this, and of course it's always fun to see the brother and sister in real life, playing off of one another. She basically plays his assistant, who's there, who sends him all of his jobs, but at the same time she's a lot more of a busybody than you would necessarily expect. She's the one who convinces him to go back to his high school reunion, which is a very interesting thing for the assistant of an assassin to do. And she's a very interesting character, but at the same time you also she's very ballsy, not only in the way that she deals with him, but the way she deals with others. She's not somebody you want to trifle with by any stretch of the imagination. And she's very charismatic in the film, and she's not in it a whole heck of a lot, but when she does, I think she really lights up the screen. And then when he does go back to his hometown, he meets up with one of his old friends, his best friend, who's played by Jeremy Piven, who is an actor who I think is yeah, I have very mixed feelings about him in most things. I think sometimes he plays things way too over the top. You know, there's not usually there's not a lot of nuance to his characters, and lately he's in the news for having done some very dastardly things, some awful things in real life, which if true, it makes me dislike him to a great degree. But as an actual actor in this movie, I thought he was solid. I thought he was good because, like I said, he's very big in his performances in my view. So his character when he finds out that his old high school buddy is an assassin, he should have a very big reaction to it. So it works. I think it's a character that, you know, he needed. An actor like him needs this style character for him to work on screen. You have Alan Arkin is in this, who is it Alan Arkin? I think it's Alan Arkin. I'm just double checking here to make sure that I'm not a complete fool here. But anyways, he plays a... Yes, it is Alan Arkin. He plays basically a therapist of John Cusack's character. He deals with him, and he's absolutely sick of him. He's basically almost held hostage by Cusack because he goes in there, and Cusack is forthright with him about what he does, and he does not like talking to him. He finds him to be a gigantic downer. He doesn't think he's helping him. He finds it to be a very useless scenario to be in, and he's very forthright with him in that degree. But Cusack basically always forces him to give him advice, and his advice is always solid but strained, and it's very interesting too, because a lot of times the way in which he forces that advice out of him is basically almost threatening his life, and his reactions to that are great. I thought he played the character to the nines. But for me, I'd say, other than the two main characters, which are Cusack and Mae Driver's characters, the one that makes the biggest mark on this movie is a fellow assassin played by Dan Aykroyd, who at first is trying to convince him to kind of come in with him, and basically that they'll have like an assassin's company that Dan Aykroyd's character will give these jobs and farm it out to all these guys, and Cusack is not willing to do that at all. And the relationship between the two of them is absolutely fascinating, because there is a level of camaraderie between them when they're talking to one another. I mean, there's always they're always trying to one up one another, and there's an antagonistic flavor between their conversations for sure. But there does seem to be a little bit of actual affection, if not affection, they can relate to one another. They understand one another. So their scenes are kind of fraught with like a connection that he has that he doesn't share with anybody else in the film. But at the same time, they're perfectly willing to kill one another, and as the film progresses, they do attempt to kill one another. And so the way that their characters kind of play off one another, I think it really lights up the screen whenever they're both on the film in the film together. So I absolutely adore this movie, despite the fact that I wasn't sure if it was Alan Arkin or not. That aside, I think this movie is great. I think it's a whole heck of a lot of fun, and like I said, it has a very dark sense of humor. I think you have to have the right kind of sense of humor for it to really work for you. But I think if you do fall into that category, it's one that's absolutely going to be one that sticks with you. So I think it's absolutely great. So those are my thoughts on it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, if you've seen it, if you've never heard of it, if the story sounds interesting to you, whatever. Other than that, please hit that like button, hit that share button. It makes it much more likely that other people come check out this review and let me know what they think, which is awesome, because I love talking to people about movies. And speaking of which, if you are new here, you just haven't done it yet, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you find out when I put out a new video, and you come check it out and let me know what you think. Aside from all that though, have yourself a good day.